Today on Locked On Rockies, well, Bill Schmidt spoke to the media yesterday, and there were some interesting things, but something that we already kind of knew, Montero's got to prove it this year, and it's a big year for first base.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 21st day of February in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Who am I? I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire. Been bringing you your daily Rockies talk for almost 4 seasons now and been following this team my entire life. I am arguably one of the biggest Rockies fans you know. I'd safely put some money on that. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are available on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. Just like Kris Bryant 2687 says, Nolan Jones is hitting more than 20 home runs. He had like 20 in 106 games last season. And I think that's a pretty safe bet. I don't think 25 home runs is out of the question for our friend Nolan Jones here. But Nolan Jones isn't the focus of the podcast today. I know he really should be, but we are talking about another young player for the Rockies, Elehuris Montero, as he prepares for arguably the biggest season that for him. This season is one that sets the stage basically for what the Rockies are going to do, what the Rockies are putting pressure on the Rockies to do things. And it's also just going to go ahead and complicate things at first base, right field, and for others. So we're going to dive into that yet again, especially after we got some comments from Bill Schmidt yesterday. And if you are in the Hartford, Connecticut area, you might want to be looking ahead to the Yard Goats season, because there are a lot of players that are key to the Rockies' futures, or what the Rockies believe are key to their future. Hopefully going to starting their seasons there at AA and looking to go up to AAA. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we dive into everything, got to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Okay. Like I was saying yesterday, if you are not following the Rockies media members on X, on Twitter, on all of those socials, you're missing out on the best spring coverage. There are reporters, there are people out there right now following the team, bringing you the latest and greatest from spring training as the Rockies get one day closer to playing a baseball game. And of course, friend of the show, Patrick Lyons here has a couple of updates here, and I'm going to read 2 of them here. And I want to start with the big story that I have, or the big topic that I have for today. And it starts, and this is from Patrick Lyons here on X. GM Bill Schmidt offered a lot on the Rockies during media day. Kris Bryant, set to be the everyday first baseman, could play right field, especially if Elehuris Montero continues to hit. Ryan Rollison may be ready as soon as April. Riley Pint has increased confidence, plenty of potential. Man, rooting for Riley Pint for sure. That's not where I want to focus, though. This is a sign that what you're hearing there is a moment where it's not that you can be frustrated with the Montero, with the lack of consistency, especially last season for Montero, in a season in which he should have really seen more of it in the beginning of the year. We saw Montero for a good chunk of the second half of the season, looking at his at the numbers and such, and we look at where Monty was playing in the towards the back half of the season. We've highlighted the fact that last year was really weird for him in terms of still going up and down. How much consistency is he really getting? I remember that he was playing in the everyday lineup basically up until the end of April. And then he goes down to the minor leagues, doesn't see the major leagues yet again for the entirety of the month of May. And then from there, he pretty much was playing mostly consistent. But another similar thing happened there. Again, plays almost all of June. July rolls around. He only plays in 5 games. August rolls around. September rolls around. He's an everyday player. That's something that when I look at Montero's season last year, that's where I get frustrated. That's where I get frustrated about the approach of handling Montero. He was not given a moment until the second half of the season, past the second half of the season last year, to really build consistency. And you're saying, well, he played 2 full months. He played all of April. He played all of June. I mean, he batted sub 220 in both of those months. He struck out over 15 times both of those months. He didn't really do much. But we know how important it is for young players to get consistency, and that's not consistency. But we're facing the same issue going into this season. How is Montero going to find himself into the lineup every day? He has to force his way into it. He has to give Bud Black no other option other than to play him at first, Kris Bryant in right, and have Charlie Blackmon DH. Now, that means that's going to impact Bouchard. That's going to impact Goodman. That's going to impact Tolia. We've talked about this before. There's no way to play all of your young guys and play Kris Bryant. I mean, that's where the Kris Bryant contract is coming into play. Now, this season's going to be a weird one where it would be easy just, hey, Kris Bryant's just going to be the DH. We're worried about the health. We don't want him in the field. We're just going to stash him there. But Charlie Blackmon's still too effective. And I know Charlie got hurt, but look at Charlie's overall injury history. And it ain't going to be like the stuff that we've seen with Kris Bryant. But in order for Montero to get on the field, he has to prove it. He cannot go up against Major League pitching and look outmatched. He can't go up against Major League pitching and look like he doesn't belong there. He has to bring the power that he has the confidence in, and he has to become that guy that he's talked about before. It's still burned in my brain from last season that Montero wants to be the cleanup batter for the Rockies. That's the right mindset. That's the mindset I want him to have. But it's got to be backed up on the field, and he's out of minor league options, I'm pretty sure. I don't think the Rockies can put him back in AAA. And in reality, going back to AAA will not do anything for Montero. He crushes minor league pitching. He is able to handle it. He has demonstrated the power. He is someone that is going to be that is better than AAA level, but needs the opportunity to really prove it. Because reminder, at the beginning of the season last year, as we were talking about going through his stats, he was playing third base. And we learned that third base is not the primary position for Montero, and that's okay. In reality, it turned out to be not so bad. Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it. But it made more sense for Rymack to go over to third and for the Rockies to use the platoon, the rotation, the Trejos, et cetera, there at second base. But now that option now is a moment for Montero to earn his spot in the lineup, and he's going to do and to do that, he can do it by what he did in August and September. Really, when you're looking at it, you're like, August not so great. 221, 264, 382. When you're looking at that, and 30 strikeouts in that month. But here's also the kicker. He had 10 home runs. Had 10 RBI and 2 home runs. He hit a triple, a couple of doubles, 26 total bases in that month. It slowly started to build together. We're like, okay, especially, there's a pulse. Then we go to September, final month of the year. Bats 298, 368, 553. The strikeouts are still high, but he drives, he walks 8 times. He drives in 13. He hits 6 home runs. He hits 6 doubles. He gets 28 total hits and 94 at bats. That's the type of stuff we have to see, and more. We need to see Monty being the power RBI generating guy that he's going to be. First base defense, I'm not really that concerned about. I'm not really focused on that either for Montero or Bryant. But this is a moment in the career of Elehuris Montero where you're going up against an MVP. You're going up against a World Series champion. You have no other option but to prove it. because there's no talk of putting Montero in right field, which I don't think would be the move anyway. But the point is, for the Rockies as well, this is a key situation for a player that has a lot connected to the legacy and lore of this version of the Rockies, of the post-playoff Rockies. This is a guy that was considered to be the crown jewel of that trade. This is the year that Montero has to take that step forward, and the Rockies have to give him that chance. It does not help Montero to have him start the season on the bench. He needs to DH. He needs to play first base. He needs to be in the lineup 5 days a week at minimum. But he also has to earn that. And that makes it tough. Hot and cold. But I really do believe that the consistency is one of the biggest issues that Montero has faced. He's never been given long enough to make the adjustments, long enough to go through the grind. We saw what happened there when he got 2 full months of playing time last year. An increase across the board in stats and better performances. But it's going to be tough because there are a lot of guys that want to make their name too, and they're depending on right field as well. Let's talk about Kris Bryant playing some outfield. Let's talk about what we think about that and more coming up here in segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. You already know. If you want to get ready for baseball with some props and futures, they got that available over there at FanDuel. But if you're looking to score some buckets with the Denver Nuggets and the NBA, FanDuel's got you covered because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's any winning $5 bet. Doesn't have to be on basketball, doesn't have to be on hockey. Any winning $5 bet is going to get you $150. That's $150 if your bet wins when you head to FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel's got a super easy to use app, and you can see all the NBA action, including quick bets, live same game parlays, some fun prop bets, and lots more, all on that super easy to use app right there in your pocket. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on for all your sportsbook action. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot because that's what we do around here each and every day. And if you're looking for more sports coverage from us here on Locked On, well, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. All right, we are talking about the first base battle. We are talking Montero. We're talking Kris Bryant. We're talking updates from spring training. Reminder, please go follow Denver media. Go follow these people that are covering the Rockies. It is so important that you do so. And there's no better way to stay informed on the Colorado Rockies in spring than by following the Patrick Lyons, the Thomas Hardings, et cetera. I mean, it seems like almost everybody in the Rockies media is going to be down there. So be sure to be following and staying up to date with all things Rockies as we get one day closer to opening day. All right. So if Montero is going to get playing time, what does that mean for Kris Bryant? How are the Rockies going to handle Kris Bryant? Are we confident that Kris Bryant is going to play a full season? The answer is I don't know to all of those. To be totally honest, I mean, this is the big sports conundrum. This is the big contract conundrum. This really is a massive point, not only for the career of Montero, but for the Rockies' career of Kris Bryant as well. It's not just a prove-it year for Kris Bryant or for Montero. It's a prove-it year for Kris Bryant as well. I need to see that this guy can stay healthy for 120 games. I need to see that this guy can be impactful on the field. I need to see this guy take advantage of hitting at Coors Field. If he's not going to hit home runs, I need to see doubles in the gap. And then, when it comes to defense, it's circled around and gone back to Kris Bryant, left fielder. He's going to figure out he's never played a big outfield like that. Okay, not so much. Right field. All right, still the outfield, but it's tough out there. You got the weird wall there and right, and it's still the outfield, so you're still moving your body a lot. Let's have him play first base now. And so I don't really think that Kris Bryant is going to change the game as a defensive first baseman. I think he'll be a fine option there, and I think it should be a way to get him to stay healthy. But there is going to be a point where the Kris Bryant question has to start being asked. And this season too, I mean, with the Charlie Blackmon factor, you're going to have to at some point make the call of, is Bryant in the lineup over Montero, over Bouchard, over Tolia, over Goodman, all these young guys. And does Kris Bryant's name alone save him there? Does his resume alone save him there? It probably will. It's Bud Black. We know his love for veteran players and having them in the lineup and in the mix. But what if KB struggles out the gate? What if Montero starts the season off well? What if Hunter Goodman, Sean Bouchard have a really good spring? I mean, Kris Bryant's not a bench player. But the question does have to arise, when are you going to really buy in to letting the kids play? When are you really going to just go full on in on that mentality? And so, unfortunately, what I think this is going to mean is Kris Bryant is going to block a lot of prospects this year. For 3 of them, most likely. Kris Bryant is going to be in the lineup. Kris Bryant is going to be the right fielder. Kris Bryant is going to be the first baseman. I'm not that worried about him playing right field. I think it's really not going to be the end of the world. We haven't seen the best right field play in a while. I don't necessarily think it's cost the Rockies much especially when they're backed up by the 2/3 of the outfield is really good. So I'm not as worried about that. I'm just worried at how Kris Bryant's puzzle piece fits into this overall equation. How long do you have to continue to just find a spot for Kris Bryant? Find a moment for him, find an opening for him. Because just like we've talked about with Montero, it doesn't help Sean Bouchard, it doesn't help Hunter Goodman, it doesn't help Michael Tolia to just come up and sit on the bench. It doesn't. They have been called up. They have played in the big leagues before. They have done their cups of teas. They need the opportunity to prove it. So it's going to be a tough tightrope to walk here. It's going to be a tough situation here for the Rockies when it comes to figuring out first base, right field, and the Kris Bryant situation. Because if Kris Bryant isn't performing, I don't think that he is going to get the same treatment. I don't think you're going to see them pull him out. The Rockies have Kris Bryant sit multiple games in a row. I know it's not really how it works. I know it's not what we brought him in for. But it really, really is going to be a moment where there are some really interesting points in a lot of careers on the right side of the infield and on the right side of the outfield. And I need Kris Bryant to demonstrate why he should be the one that gets the starting spot, why he should be the one that gets to dominate. Why should he be the one? He needs to reinforce and remind us. I know what Kris Bryant is capable of doing. I've watched Kris Bryant in the past, but for Kris Bryant on the Rockies, it's a completely different story. If the Rockies are 15 games out, if the Rockies are at the bottom of the division and gasping for air in June, is it more important that Kris Bryant gets playing time, or is it more important that the 4 young guys that he's getting in the way of get the playing time? And will the Rockies make that decision? Will the Rockies be capable of saying that? And the answer, obviously, is that the Rockies are going to play Kris Bryant. I know that's what's going to happen. I understand that. But that is going to have serious implications for a lot of guys that are in situations where they need to start, they need this time. So it isn't just a prove it year and prove it time for Elehuris Montero. There is no doubt in my mind that Kris Bryant needs to prove himself as being the leader on this team, on the field, especially. We've heard the off the field stuff. That is great. I love the locker room presence from Kris Bryant. I love that the players listen to him. I love that the players are fans of him. But I need him to play 120 games this year, and I need him to stay healthy, and I need him to hit home runs. I need him to drive in runs. I need Kris Bryant to be an offensive threat, and I am still hesitant about that. I have yet to see a Kris Bryant that dominates on offense for the Colorado Rockies. 300 at-bats last year for Kris Bryant, 10 home runs, batted .233, 31 RBI, an OBP of .313, slugging of .367, an OPS of .680. Meh. I like the 10 home runs. I'm happy he got double-digit home runs last year. But if this is it, 386 plate appearances they're projecting for Kris Bryant, 257, 337, 430. By who? I mean Baseball Reference. An OPS of 767, 42 RBI, 13 home run. I mean, obviously these are low, but this is a stat line that can happen. Double the amount of strikeouts for Kris Bryant than RBI. They're projecting. I mean, Kris Bryant hasn't even sniffed 20 home runs since he came to Colorado. Hasn't even come close. And obviously that's because he hasn't played. 42 games in Colorado in 2022, 80 games in Colorado in 2023. Shoot, 120 might be too much. We got to see him for 100. And I'm wondering if that's something that he wants. If he wants the time, he wants the consistency. He wants the ability to say, no, this is my team. This is my moment. But I am in the mindset of Kris Bryant's got to prove it too, because the clock should be ticking on his, DH is one thing, but there are players that need first base and need right field to get on the field. And if Kris Bryant ain't producing, that question has to be had. You're going to have to let him slide. I believe that is, you're going to have to go with the hot hand. And it's just a matter of, will the Rockies do that? Will the Rockies go for it? Because I deep down, even though Patrick Lyons says Bryant will play right field if Montero continues to hit, I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, especially Montero, there isn't enough reason for me to believe that the Rockies will stick with Montero and let him play. But it's going to be real frustrating to watch the Rockies lose games and trot out same lineups and watch Montero just sit on the bench. Because that is really not how Montero, that is just not even close to the approach that Montero should be given in this year. Arguably the most important year of Montero's career, this one. The options are done. The future is unclear. We haven't seen what we thought we were going to see. And there's a million reasons that go into that. So I really want to buy into the KB thing. I really do. I really want to buy into this, to the player and the caliber. And I, like I said, I'm really glad to what he's bringing to the clubhouse and stuff, but I am increasingly hesitant because I'm asking him to play 120 games this year. And that's what he's done in 2 seasons for the Rockies total. It's going to be tough. All right. Hey, if you're in Hartford, you are going to want to get your tickets because the Yard Goats are going to have a really good or exciting, good, I guess, is however you want to look at it in terms of minor leagues. That's an interesting word to use. You are going to want to get your tickets. More on that coming up. Speaking of tickets, you can get your tickets with Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They got last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, all sorts of types of deals available on the Gametime app. But my favorite thing that you get when you buy from Gametime, a picture of your seat. It's a small thing. It's a small detail, but it makes all the difference for me. It really does change how I'm feeling about the price I want to pay, where I'm sitting, if I even want to go. That type of stuff is super helpful. I really, really like Gametime for my ticket buying experience. I've used it now multiple times and will continue to do so. Why? Because they got deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. Not sure if you want to go or not. They even got tickets and after hour it starts. It's the place to find last minute seats. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase at Gametime. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Folks, here again from Patrick Lyons on X here. Hartford Yard Goats may have quite the squad on opening night, according to Rockies GM Bill Schmidt. Adel Amador will begin his year in Double A. A quartet of outfielders, Zach Veen, Jordan Beck, Yanquiel Fernandez, and Benny Montgomery could all start the year there as well. It's exciting stuff. I mean, these are prospects that we've heard a bit about. Beck is a really interesting one. Of course, Amador is really interesting. If you are in Hartford, you're not going to want to miss out. I mean, you are looking at if things go well, of course, you're looking at potentially another next core of the Rockies, or players that are going to come in and play a part, play a factor. You're looking at the Charlie Blackmon replacements. You're looking at the potential Kris Bryant replacements as well, depending on what Bryant's role becomes. Of course, the how does Amador do at the AA level is going to directly influence how the Rockies are going to handle Brendan Rodgers and the trade deadline this year. If you want to get a glimpse at the Rockies of the future, Hartford's going to be the place to be, it looks like, to start the year. And I mean, that's a really interesting group of outfielders that it has. There are a lot of names on that list that are that are supposed to be the real interesting outfielders, mixed in with arguably the Rockies' most exciting one of the most exciting prospects in Amador. There, it is going to be a really, really great start for Hartford. Out of all of those, though, I mean, of course, I think there are two names that I want to really learn more about this year from that list, and that is Benny Montgomery and Zach Veen. I feel like both of these players had a lot of hype, a lot of steam, a lot of momentum, and we haven't heard much. I know Benny's younger, so Benny's had been in the lower level, still developing. But Zach Veen, big injury last year that he is recovering from. So this is a crucial year for prospects that have been considered to be really highly regarded and are in situations where they want to bounce back too. I think there was a piece from Thomas Harding about Veen trying to get back in there and get back to having fun and being that fun-loving outfielder that we really started to fall in love with a couple of years ago. So if you are a Hartford listener, if you are in that area, you aren't going to want to miss out, especially on the start of the year. Who knows what's going to happen? But that is an exciting announcement there, as some really exciting Rockies prospects are moving on up in the ranks and getting closer and closer to that major league level. I mean, heck, it won't be too surprising maybe if you see some of those guys at some point in this season, depending on how the Rockies season goes, depending on how healthy the Rockies stay. So, Yard Goats fans, make sure that you are getting out there and getting your tickets ready, because you are in for a treat. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or Locked On MLB. If you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all on the Locked On Podcast Network as well, bringing you all your Colorado sports talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Find us on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing, letting me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Rockies and spring training on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. Your subscription, your liking of the videos is the easiest way to help the show. Really, really do appreciate that. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.